The present module is aimed at discussing the three types of fallacies according to Diṅnāga. We will discuss them in the same order: Pakshabhasa, Hetvabhasa and Drishnantabhasa. Our discussion of Diṅnāga's theory of fallacies will be based mainly on Nyayamukha. However, occasional references will be made to Diṅnāga's Pramana Samuccaya and Nyaya Pravesha, which is attributed to Diṅnāga by some scholars and Shankara Swami by some others. So first we will be discussing Pakshabhasa. In his Nyayamukha, Diṅnāga defined Paksha or thesis as that which the proponent himself intends to prove and which is not refuted by objects contradictory to it. Since a thesis is defined as something which is not contradicted by any other means, a fallacy of the thesis or a pakshabhasa will occur when this condition is violated. That is, when in the thesis the property to be proved, that is the sadhya dharma, is sublated with regard to its subject by what is obtained through perception, etc. Now we come to the classification of Pakshabhasa. In the Nyayamukha, Diṅnāga mentions 5 varieties of Pakshabhasa. Thus, Svabachana Nirakrita, first one, a thesis which is falsified by its own statement, example, Sarvam, Uktang, Mrisha, everything that has been said is false. When the speaker utters this thesis, it is immediately falsified by his very act of uttering the sentence. This can be called a case of pragmatic contradiction. The second is Agama Nirakrita or Abhyupagama Nirakrita, a thesis which is falsified by the view already approved by the disputant. For example, when a Vaisheshika tries to prove that sound is eternal, the thesis is fallacious because it is falsified by the view already accepted by the Vaisheshika that sound is non-eternal. The third one is Shabda Prasiddhi Nirakrita, a thesis which is falsified by verbal convention. Shashi is not Chandra because it exists. In Sanskrit, Chandra and Shashi are synonyms which mean moon. So if a Sanskrit speaker presents a thesis that Shashi is not Chandra, then his thesis is taken to be falsified by the verbal convention according to which Shashi is the same as Chandra. The fourth one is Pratyaksha Nirakrita, a thesis which is falsified by perception. For example, sound is not audible. That sound is audible is established by auditory perception. Hence, the thesis is falsified by perception. And the last one is Anumana Nirakrita, a thesis which is refuted by inference. For example, the pot is permanent. Here the thesis is supposed to be falsified by a sound inference like the pot is impermanent because it is a product like a cloth. In the text Pramana Samuccaya, Diṅnāga refers to some more ways of the thesis being falsified. For example, a thesis may be falsified if the property attributed to the property bearer is sublated, or if the very existence of the property bearer is sublated or some intended property bearer is sublated. In Nyaya Pravesha, a few more additions are found, such as Loka Viruddha, contradicted by common knowledge, and Prasiddha Sambandha, a thesis in which Dharma-Dharmi relation is already known. Now we come to Hetvabhasa. By the term Hetvabhasa, Diṅnāga means a faulty Probans or a pseudo-Probans. Diṅnāga admits 3 kinds of faulty Probans, namely unproved or asiddha, inconclusive or anaikantika, and contradicted or viruddha. The 3 types of faulty Probanses have a correlation, though not a one-to-one correlation, but a correlation with the 3 conditions of a sound Probans, namely, first, the existence of the Probans in Paksha, the subject. Second, existence of the Probans in Sapaksha, similar cases. And 3, non-existence of the Probans in Vipaksha, dissimilar cases. Asiddha fallacy occurs due to non-fulfillment of the first condition. Anaikantika occurs by violation of either of the second or the third condition, and Viruddha occurs by violation of both second and third conditions. Let us consider the 3 fallacies with some more details. First comes Asiddha Hitvabhasa, which we may say the unproved faulty Probans. Literally, Asiddha means unproved or unknown. Since this fallacy is supposed to arise due to non-fulfillment of the condition that the Probans should exist in the subject, here by unproved or unknown Probans, we mean the Probans unproved or unknown as existent in the subject. Asiddha is of 4 kinds: Ubhaya Siddha, Anyatara Siddha, Sandigdha Siddha, and Ashraya Siddha. Ubhaya Siddha, unproved according to both. A Probans which is accepted as unproved by both the parties in the debate, namely the disputant and the opponent, is Ubhaya Siddha. Consider the inference: sound is non-eternal because it is visible. Shabdaha anityaha chakshushatvat. Here the Probans, namely visibility, is not present in the subject, that is sound, and this is acceptable to both the parties. Next comes Anyatara Siddha, unproved according to one of the parties. A Probans is Anyatara Siddha if it is unproved according to one of the parties. For example, a Vaisheshika disputant argues to a Mimamsaka, sound is non-eternal because it is created. But the Vaisheshika view that sound is created is not acceptable to the opponent, the Mimamsaka. That is because, according to him, when somebody utters a sound, he does not create it, but only makes it manifest, abhibhyakta. Therefore, createdness, the Probans, in this inference, is not acceptable to one of the parties, that is to the Mimamsaka, and therefore the Probans is Anyatara Siddha. Next comes Sandigdha Siddha, unproved because of being doubtful. A Probans is Sandigdha Siddha if its nature is doubtful or not definitely known. For example, somebody argues that the hill has fire because it has smoke, when actually it is doubtful whether what appears to the disputant as smoke is smoke or a steam or a collection of dust. Here the opponent can argue that since the existence of smoke is doubtful, it cannot prove the existence of fire. And then Ashraya Siddha, the subject of which is unproved. A Probans of an Ashraya Siddha type would be one in reference to which the locus, that is the subject, is non-existent. Consider, for example, the Vaisheshika's argument: space is a substance because it is the locus of qualities. Here the subject is space and the Probans is the property of being the locus of qualities, gunashrayatva. This is a case of Ashraya Siddha according to the Buddhists, because according to them, except the Vaibhashikas of course, space or akasha, which is the subject of the inference, is non-existent.